Good afternoon, everyone. Can I be heard okay? Yes? Great. I now call the University Senate to order. As we call today's meeting to order, I want to provide just some brief opening remarks. Every day here, we have a front row seat to a really rapidly evolving state of higher education in this country. The value of our work, our autonomy, and our funding are all part of a now national dialogue. I know this heightened uncertainty has spread fear and anxiety among our students, faculty, staff, and community. I just want to open here by saying this reminds me of how universities had to suddenly shift gears at the beginning of our COVID time. And like then, we all have to live to learn with the ambiguity and the fluidness of the current situation that we're in. I also know how many of our university community are distressed after learning about the recent detainment of our international graduate student. Please know that myself and my team are committed to our transparency, and we have to balance that with our community desire for more information, with students' requests and their right to privacy. During these complex times, I want us to remember that we are stronger together, we are stronger unified, as together we care about our university and our university mission. As we continue to work to find common ground at the university, it is in this way that we will maintain our mission, our values, and the educational beacon that we are, one that bridges us and gets us through to a brighter future. I'm confident that working together with the faculty and the Senate, that we will emerge from this time of uncertainty in higher education stronger. So with that, I want to thank you for everything that you're doing, and I'll look forward to hearing the meeting today. I want to call out at the top of the hour here that I'm actually sitting at the Capitol doing this beginning part of this meeting today, and I've been called into an urgent meeting at 4 p.m. And so I will need to leave this at 3:40, and you'll appreciate that I'm advocating for our university, and at that time I'll turn it over to a co-chair. And I know the order of events have been rearranged some today to accommodate that, so thank you. Item 2 is a list of recent faculty, staff, and student deaths that have been sent for announcement to the Senate. I invite you to observe a moment of silence while I read the names. Leslie Botissa, Rosalie Youssef. Thank you. Next, item 3 is introductions to the Senate. First, Radhika Session, Dean of CCAPS, and I will invite her to say a few words.
Thank you, President Cunningham. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Radhika Session. I'm going to keep it really brief since I know there's many things happening in the agenda today. I joined the University of Minnesota last August, and yes, I'm done with my first winter. It wasn't bad. The Dean of the College of Continuing and Professional Studies. I moved here from relevant experience, if you will, in California. And so I'm deeply appreciative of the opportunity and the obligation to serve our state, our community, and the larger causes that we do. For those of you that don't know what CCAPS does, I just want to do a quick roundup of all the programs. There's something that I'm sure that you are all working with at some place or the other. The first set of things is that we operate all the non-degree programs. We operate the Minnesota English Language Program, College in the Schools, PSEO for the university, and OLLI, which are all designed to extend access from high school through to post-career retiree programs, extending our reach in our community. And of course, we offer a set of non-credit professional development programs. We have hundreds of professionals teaching in our professional development programs in the Twin Cities. And thousands of learners taking certificate classes. And we have some graduate degree programs that we operate in partnership. They're all applied professional education programs, some in partnership with the medical school and other colleges like biological sciences, CFANS, etc., and a few applied undergraduate programs, and one particular which has been historically important at the university, which is an intercollege program that custom designs an opportunity for all students to finish, no matter where they start, taking classes across the university. So I think I've raced through my introduction. I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. And I want to say we're here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the Dean. I'm sorry to tell you, however, that you might not have completely made it through your first winter here. So, but we'll welcome you to enjoy the rest of it here in Minnesota. And also how struck I was when I met you and I toured with you your school and met your leadership on what drew you here was the university's national reputation in your fields. And we're grateful for you to join us and help continue that reputation. Next, I will introduce Greg Goldman. Greg joined the university in November as our Executive Vice President of Finance and Operations. He has 3 decades of experience in finance and operations at large public research institutions, including the University of Arizona and UCLA. Welcome, Greg. I welcome you to share a few remarks.
Thank you, President Cunningham. Great to see everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I will say that I've almost survived my first winter with a record of -13. I do have a picture of that proudly. But most important, it was exciting and is exciting to be able to come back to a university with a land grant mission, having spent time in similar roles at UCLA and University of Arizona as CFOs, both of those, but also kind of earlier in my career growing up on the academic side of our business, CFO for the Marshall School of Business at USC and for the Mirage School of Business at UC Irvine. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to getting out to all the schools and colleges, having a chance to meet everybody, and helping all of us continue to move our mission forward across all of our campuses across the state. So thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be here.
Thank you so much. Item 4, and welcome again, Greg. In these interesting budget times, we are welcome your expertise here to help lead us through. Item 4 is my report. And so with that, I'll start by circling back to where I started here on the deeply concerning situation involving one of our graduate students. I am always concerned by such events that happen with any of our students or community. As you know, U.S. Immigration and Customs officials detained a Carlson graduate student last week at an off-campus residence. The university, as I've mentioned before, and I know I say this specifically because I know it's a concern of our community in how ICE receives its information. The university had no prior knowledge of this incident, and we certainly do not share any information, did not, with federal authorities before it occurred, nor do we share or have information about students and student protests and things like that that we are sharing. I just want to be very clear about that. The student had requested privacy, which we do honor. And so as people have asked, what did we know and when do we know it and what did we said, I want to emphasize if this happens to you or anybody you care about, you have the right to privacy. We respect that right to privacy. Also, based on laws involving student records, the university didn't provide any further details at that time or at this time. But what I can say is that we do, in cases like this, in all cases like this, take immediate action when we find out about such an incident to ensure that students are well connected to resources and support. Resources like student legal aid services, international student and scholar services. Although this incident occurred off campus, it's important to clarify that our departments of public safety, including UMPD, do not enforce federal immigration laws. Our officers do not inquire about students' individual immigration status. And we want you to feel safe calling and interacting with our UMPD. They are not involved in immigration. Their focus is on public safety, fostering trust, and maintaining strong relationships across our university community and keeping us all safe. The university has a number of resources and support that are specific to federal immigration policies, which are available on our Rapid Response website. This includes guidance on how students, faculty, and staff can respond should federal authorities arrive on or off campus with a warrant, subpoena, or court order, or questions related to immigration status. I've heard from members of our community in recent days a lot about this. I certainly understand how distressing this news is for them and how difficult a time it is to be in an international student, faculty, or staff. And I encourage us all to extend our hearts and our kindness to the international community broadly as they start to figure out this changing immigration rules. I want our students and our community at large to also know those who might feel undervalued or disrespected or voiceless. I think I speak for all of us when we say you are not alone, regardless of your race, gender identity, disability, citizenship status, sexual orientation, political or religious beliefs. You belong here at the University of Minnesota. We are stronger, wiser, and more effective when we have a mission with all of you here. And each and every one of you plays an important role in our community. I hear these concerns across our community, and I truly value your input. I know also our actions speak louder than words, and to that end, the university will continue to support and advocate for your rights to peacefully protest and free expression across a variety of diverse viewpoints. The university has a rich history and commitment to free expression that dates back 174 years, and is our shared responsibility to uphold these core values. I also commit that the university will take decisive action to end any and all forms of harassment, intimidation, and bias against any member of our community. Each of us must stand in firm opposition to harassment, intimidation, and bias and prevent their recurrence. We take great pride that we are one of America's leading research universities, public research universities. This reputation is due certainly into how our schools, colleges, and campus have embraced people from all over the world. The university will not waver in its support for our international students and scholars. So as we maneuver through these challenges and the fear and uncertainty and anxiety that comes with this time that we live in, as when any changes happen, I'll continue to support and advocate on behalf of you and this great institution. Moving on to our research community. Research is a vital part of our mission, and I want to provide some updates on how recent developments in DC have impacted our research enterprise. As well as how the university has responded best to support the needs of our students, faculty, and staff. I am actively advocating on your behalf, as is my team, as we navigate this rapidly evolving, daily evolving landscape of federal executive orders and budgetary adjustments. We have a dedicated team that I have assigned and experts in finance, human resources, federal relations, and research administration who are working diligently every day to assess these daily developments and implement strategies that will minimize, we hope to the best that we can, our research and academic endeavors. As part of this effort, we're closely monitoring the legal developments and agency actions, including the temporary restraining orders and preliminary injunctions to protect our research portfolio. As of this week, the university has received approximately 34 stop work or termination notices from federal agencies. We are working. These termination notices have resulted in work being stopped on projects affecting critical research projects across multiple disciplines. Among those impacted are a research project designed to study a COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy among people with severe mental illness, the Great Lakes Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center, which has helped to advance critical energy, water, and natural resource projects across a 6-state region, including Minnesota, as well as 37 federally recognized tribal nations. Another grant, the Midwest Antiviral Drug Discovery Center, which is part of a national network of 9 centers designed to develop the next generation of antiviral drugs for pandemic-level viruses, was paused. Another last example, the Teacher Quality Partnership Grant, which was intended to train special education teachers across rural, urban, and suburban districts. If you receive a stop work order, please share it with your SPA grant and contract officer, because we are doing everything we can to support those impacted, as well as to work with agencies to understand if there is any leeway for adjustments or anything that we can be done to address these. The university is deeply engaged in advocacy efforts through our multiple higher ed organizations, including the AAU, APLU, AAMC, ACE, and COGR. We are also in regular and ongoing conversations with our congressional delegation. In fact, Vice President Pia and I traveled to Washington, D.C. on Tuesday to advocate at the U.S. Capitol on behalf of our students, faculty, and staff, and our university interests. I have been at the Capitol regularly, including today. These advocacy efforts are making a difference, as seen in the legal rulings, the reinstatement of NSF employees, and the resumption of critical NIH study sections. Well, the situation continues to evolve and remain constant. Again, I have an unwavering commitment in supporting you as we manage this transition and change in federal research portfolios. I would like you to try as much as possible to stay focused on the work that you have. And we will emerge through this time of this federal uncertainty. It will take our resilience and your innovation and dedication to define the University of Minnesota. So again, please make sure that you're reaching out through our research office and your research support, and know that we are doing everything we can as these stop work orders occur, as with the other ongoing potential changes to our federal funding portfolio. A brief note on system-wide strategic planning. Even during times of increased uncertainty, we must create a strategy for the future of the university. It's more important now than ever to think strategically and chart an intentional course with budgetary uncertainty. And so this will certainly not slow down or heed our strategic planning efforts. In recent weeks, schools, colleges, and campuses have been hosting multiple town halls, focus groups, and listening sessions. The broad intentional engagement strategy has been intentional. We will need everyone to help us design this bold new vision, and I really want to thank everyone for contributing along the way to date. We're wrapping up this initial phase of engagement, and then there will be, after some internal analyzing of the current data that has come in, we'll be reaching out again for further engagement, and the steering committee work continues as planned. I think this, I have one more item here. I want to make a note, because I may not be here later, on the resolution that is coming up later on from the Student Senate. And I just want to reaffirm my commitment to meeting with students. I meet with the student governance groups twice a year. I met this past week. I met in the spring, and that is the same cadence of which I meet with the other of our governance groups leaders. And I remain committed to that, as well as to having my office be in monthly meetings, my office staff meeting regularly with the students. So I respect their resolution later on today, but I want to hear at the top end that I'm certainly committed to having ongoing and good engagements with, and I see Taiwo here. Thank you, with Taiwo and the students, and we had a good conversation earlier this week about that. Okay, that concludes my my president's report, and at this time we have questions for the president. I've received a few in advance, and so I will start with those as is typical. The first one is from going forth, as we've noticed, questions are no longer anonymous in the same way that you raise your hand if you submit a question ahead of time. So I will, as they are not anonymous, this is a change from before. This is from Megan Weber. I'm a P&A senator from the University of Minnesota Extension. And her question here is focused on some frustration at not being able to be part of a town hall, and an interest in strategic planning. And so first of all, I want to offer that my regrets that this town hall through Extension was not made accessible or available to her. We have a survey that has been out as well, broadly to the community, and there will be other town hall opportunities moving forward. In the next time going forward. Let's see.
President Cunningham, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, this is Megan Weber. I'm the one who asked the question.
Oh,
Can I
perfect.
offer a
Yeah.
point of clarification?
Please.
Yeah, so I was able to participate in the Extension town halls, and the
Okay.
question was more broadly about how, as an administration, you plan to include folks who are not based on campuses in larger university decisions. So it's been a trend beyond just the town halls, where if we're not based on campus,
Yeah.
there aren't as many places for us to engage. So I'm wondering what your plans are to make it so that non-campus based employees can be feel a little
Yeah.
bit more included in some of these things.
Thank you for that clarification. So there's a couple of pieces. The town halls on the campuses were open to all of our all of our community, but I understand that might not be convenient. There's also the survey, which went out to everyone. And there will be other opportunities, so that they should be organized through your dean for the best ways for you to participate. And so each of the deans was tasked with providing opportunities for engagement within their community. And so we can provide it at the university level and also have the surveys be broad. And then I would ask you to work with your dean on how that local engagement can happen that filters back up. And I'll also take your point on how extension is an important part of our community and how your voice can be heard. So thank you for that. The second question is from Sam Schmall. Has ICE been present on campus in the University of Minnesota campuses? And if so, what procedures have been developed? Thank you for your question, Sam. We are not aware of any ICE activity at the University of Minnesota campuses. I would encourage, again, you and your colleagues to visit our rapid response website, which includes important resources and FAQs regarding federal immigration policies. For example, if someone to arrive on one of our campuses and present a warrant, subpoena, court order, or ask for information regarding your immigration status, you're encouraged to contact the Office of the General Counsel before taking action, and that phone number is available on that website. Our colleagues from International Student and Scholar Services also provided the following tips and advice. They suggest that you carry color photographs of your current immigration documents at all times, even within the United States. They encourage you to review your Know Your Rights information in case you're asked for immigration documents, to consider international travel plans carefully as re-entry requirements could change while you are traveling. If you do travel internationally for university purposes, please remember to register your international travel. And if you're unsure of how any of this changing landscape affects you, you can reach out to the International Student and Scholar Services, who will arrange for a personal one-to-one meeting, either in person or on Zoom, so that your questions can be answered. And the immigration newsletter that comes out from that office weekly is very detailed and offers a wealth of information. And so I do encourage people to read and get that information and reach out to the services for more support. Question 3 is on the institutional speech update, and I'll defer those questions onto the provost during her segment. So with that, Stacy.
Thank you, President Cunningham. I'm Stacy Maher, Civil Service Senator, Administrative Director in CFANS, and current chair of the Civil Service Senate. I appreciate your leadership during these complex times and your willingness to engage with our community today.
Thank you.
Civil service employees have shared their thoughts with me, highlighting opportunities where your guidance would be especially valuable. As you've shared today, many are seeking additional resources about the strength and stability of our university employment framework during potential federal funding shifts. Thank you for sharing your insights about how the university is supporting our international students today, especially the sentiments that our students are not alone, with an emphasis on belonging. Additionally, employees are eager to learn more about how the university will continue upholding its strong tradition of academic freedom while navigating current federal relationships. With that, I'd like to respectfully ask, what positive steps is your administration taking to strengthen job security for employees as we navigate potential changes in federal funding? How can we collectively enhance support for our students that you mentioned today, specifically for our international students, and ensure they feel secured as valued members of our community? Community members respectfully are asking for improved transparency about how academic freedom will be supported further. And if you could please elaborate more, which I understand you just deferred some of that to the provost. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of these matters. They mean so much to both myself and to our community.
Well, thank you for your words and for your considerate questions and for the spirit in which you offer them. I'm appreciative of all of those things. I think I can offer some high points. One, I've asked the community, and I've asked pretty much everybody I've met with these past 2 weeks, what can we do to support our international community during these times, recognizing the limits to my power and the university's power in general. And I think one of the ways we can do this is a beautiful thing that I've seen in our community this week is how people have come together to be supportive of each other and to be supportive of the international student and our students and community in general. And so, that may be the best way that we can do that. I'm certainly open to other ways which we can support our international community during this time. again, with the limits of my powers, which sometimes feel very small. On academic freedom, I think your specific question is on institutional statements, and that I will defer. But on academic freedom more broadly, I'm happy to speak. You know, I will vigorously defend and uphold your and our university's ability to have our scholars have academic freedom to research, to teach, to publish, and to disseminate that research and outreach in a way that meaningfully upholds our mission across the university. And that will not waver. And I will say, and I know this is a difficult time on this topic for our community. There are across the country, there are states and even at the government level that are reaching down into curriculum and into department management and such. This and my work towards academic freedom is certainly not that. And I will vigorously uphold our rights to have our faculty manage our curriculum and to manage our departments and to be able to research and speak on wide dissenting views. And I hope there is disagreement on topics and have really robust, vigorous debate on topics, and have everyone feel that no matter how small their voice is compared to the people around them who are saying something else, that their voice can be debated and dissented in our community, and that inclusion of that voice and the arena which we provide at the university to have that vigorous debate is indeed what makes us a great university. So I'll leave you with that. Hello, Michael.
Hi, President Cunningham. The removal of speech that was published on our websites raises very concerning questions of the university's compliance with the First Amendment and its compliance with its policy on academic freedom, which explicitly protects conveying our expertise to the public and commenting on matters of public concern. By law, those expressions that convey our academic expertise are protected from the purview of government speech and from institutional speech. So we're in a situation where we have now singled out specific topics that the university has decided it will remain neutral on. And there's a problem where, is that prohibition itself a form of institutional speech, and what kind of chilling effect does it make? So I want to ask a question. Is the university, does it have a position about human rights? Are human rights applicable to all people in the world, or are they potentially not applicable to certain people?
Michael, I appreciate your question, and I encourage you and all of our faculty to exercise their academic freedom in writing and talking and disseminating your research and your scholarship on the global issues for which we are not going to speak on as a university, and for you individually to exercise your academic freedom to discuss human rights or any other issue. And that's about as far as I'm going to go on that. Thank you for your question, Michael. Andrea?
Sorry.
That's okay. You're fine.
Glitch with my computer. Andrea Stirk, CLA. More on the recent removal of unit statements from university websites. I have a couple questions specifically about Ukraine. In an explanatory letter, Provost Crossan affirmed we continue to strongly encourage the dissemination of scholarship reflecting differing views on the Middle East or Ukraine, but by not taking a stance on its official channels, the university will be able to fully support a broad range of debate and discourse on a variety of issues, unquote. There are indeed diverse views on many controversial issues, but what differing views should specialists support and debate regarding the invasion of Ukraine? The unprovoked Russian invasion of Ukraine is not a controversial issue unless one is a Russian propagandist. It is not. It is a clear attempt to overturn a post-World War II international rules-based order and replace it with a transactional system of great powers where raw power is supreme. Following the university's logic in this statement, are we supposed to support a broad range of debate and discourse on the Holocaust? There are plenty of Holocaust deniers out there. How about the Rwandan genocide or the butchery of the Khmer Rouge? We could surely find differing views on those events as well. Now, Provost Crossan also affirmed that the university does not currently have a position on the war in Ukraine. However, President Gabel wrote in an open letter in February 2022, quote, "The University of Minnesota stands in support of all those affected or outraged by the invasion of Ukraine. This is an atrocity, and we stand with the people of Ukraine," end quote. Partnering with the University Senate, the administration further responded to the invasion by promptly divesting of its Russian investments. Now, besides the effort to erase an important and laudable moment of the university's past in response to this crisis, does the lack of a statement by the current president, President Cunningham, overturn the university's prior position and commitments 3 years ago? Does the university no longer stand with the Ukrainian people? And if it does maintain its stance, should
30 seconds.
not those statements by concerned units of specialists be restored? Thank you.
I'm
Sorry
going
to
to
break
defer
in,
most
but
of the questions on institutional statements to the provost because you're quoting her words and she can respond to them. I will say I put out a statement last fall, end of summer, noting my stance as your president would remain neutral on the vast majority of global events. And by doing so, that I would encourage differing viewpoints. There may not be differing viewpoints. I understand your point there. But what it does is it affirms the right for people to have different views and for there to be dissent and for there to be speech, whether I agree with it personally or don't agree with it personally, and scholarship, whether I agree with it personally or don't agree with it personally. So the university, as I said last year in my statement that moving forward, I would move away from having statements on the vast majority of global events that don't affect ongoing operations and missions, which is also now the direction of the Board of Regents and the policy that they're passed. So I appreciate your question. That's my response. I'm going to move on here now to Elizabeth.
President Cunningham,
Hi.
I'm sorry to break in, but we're 5 minutes over for questions at this
I see.
time.
Okay, moving on, we have our next topic. I'm not so organized today. Is so at this point, I'm going to ask Vice Chair Shah to take over chairing the meeting at this point so that I can listen to the community's feedback, which I do very much want to hear. And then, as I mentioned before, I unfortunately need to leave for a commitment at the Capitol at 3:40. So I will listen to that until then. Vice Chair Shah.
Thank you, President Cunningham. Item 6 is a listening session, as President mentioned. We are providing this space for members of the University Senate to provide input and voice concerns to the administration. We recognize that this is a highly stressful situation and that people have strong feelings. However, we ask senators to keep their comments constructive in order to allow us to come together as a community during this uncertain time. In order for people to voice the wide range of thoughts and concerns that surely exist within the university community, the following protocols and suggestions will be in effect. This is not a Q&A session. Administrators are requested to limit responses in order to maximize speaking time. Non-senators may speak only if yielded time by a senator. When someone yields time, they will also be considered as having spoken. People who haven't yet spoken, including yielding time, will be prioritized over those who have already spoken. In addition, we ask senators to consider whether their point has already been made by another speaker, and if so, to allow speakers to make other points first. The usual rules of decorum and germaneness apply to senators and non-senators. Please also be reminded that although administrators are here to listen, all comments should be directed to the chair. The 2-minute limit will be enforced. Additionally, please think carefully about making any motions during this time, as any time spent debating and voting on motion will take time away from people to speak. We also understand that we may run out of time and that some people may not be comfortable voicing their opinion in front of the group. So a Google form is provided in the chat where people can opt to provide written feedback. Finally, the order of speakers will alternate between faculty, P&A, civil service, and student speakers as much as possible. Amber will monitor this and I'll delegate calling on people to her. Amber, go ahead and call on the first speaker.
All right, our first speaker is Elizabeth Wrigley Field.
Hi, President Cunningham and everybody else. It's nice to see you all. I think that all of us probably understand the really difficult situation that universities are in, where on the one hand, failing to really, I think, aggressively respond to the Trump administration's attacks on our operations and our funding and our academic freedom and our students leaves us at really grave risk. And in particular, I think unable to win over the public in our defense. But also that standing up individually leaves us at a really severe risk of retaliation. And this kind of collective action problem, I think, has left it really unclear what is the best path forward. And to me, one of the most hopeful things that I have seen for addressing that collective action dynamic was the call from the Rutgers University Senate to create a Big Ten Mutual Defense Pact. And to me, this kind of agreement across universities to stick together and come to one another's defense feels like the only plausible path forward, because I don't see how we can get through this without making a public case for ourselves. So I had hoped to ask this as a question.
I
but
mean,
I'll
yeah,
instead
because
just-
I don't know which ones they're using.
I'll phrase it as my hopes. I hope that the university is actively pursuing pacts like this as broadly as possible with other universities and colleges, and that we will begin to have a more public and active role in making the case for ourselves within the state, certainly, but also doing that nationally in concert with our peers. It's hard for me to see how we get through this without that. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Amber.
Okay, next we have Summer Kim, who is a student senator.
Hi, President Cunningham. I just have a request regarding the international student, the ongoing issues with that. We have seen a lot of emails from your offices and department. We do appreciate it, but however, the one thing that we're missing is that how to react when it actually the situation happens and occur to our student, and including me myself as an international student. There's a lot of email from even off campuses. They partner with the university legal service team that how to react it, and such as closing door behind it and make sure you talk to the person and numbers and everything. But then the office really only share the situational, and whether it is possible to office to actually write all email to student to how to react on it and how to prevent those situation and who to go react instead of from the ISSF, because all the colleagues for like university students for US citizen, they also are questioning how to react on the situation. And currently, all we know is that situation actually happened, and we actually don't know how to legally protect ourselves if you're really not reading the ISSS newsletter. And we're just wondering whether it is possible for office to actually step in and write a maybe letter or the email regards to the how to prevent and protect ourselves in that way.
Next up is Eric Schwartz, faculty senator.
Thank you very much. And President Cunningham, this is one of those times in life where, as I told my faculty at the Humphrey School, I'm much happier being a member of the faculty than I am being an administrator. This is an extremely challenging period for you, and we have, I think, all of us should have empathy for the challenges that you're confronting. My concern about the institutional speech issue is not whatever my personal view is on your position about the institution writ wide. That's not my fundamental concern. My fundamental concern is about the unworkability of this policy over time, because the implications will have, I think, the university tying itself in knots. For example, the Osterheim Center, can that center as a center, criticize this effort to replace vaccines with vitamin A? Can the Center on Holocaust and Genocide Studies condemn neo-Nazi violence? Can the Human Rights Program endorse the ratification of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights? These are not far-flung hypotheticals, but by the logic of the policy as I understand
30
it,
seconds.
the answer, I know, thank you. The answer to those questions would be no. And so I think my concern is that this is an unworkable policy, and it's going to create problems for the university beyond the issue of principle. And I wanted to articulate that. And again, I appreciate the challenges that you're encountering on these issues.
Next up is Jessica Lopez Lyman, who is also a faculty senator.
Good afternoon, everyone. President Cunningham, I want to begin by saying thank you for signing on to the Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. It meant a lot to people to see your name there. Today, I want to speak for DACA students and students who are from mixed status families. As many of you know, in order to qualify for DACA, you've had to have been in the country since a very young age. Therefore, the United States is the country that you know, and some of our DACA students don't even speak the language of their country where they were born. When I talk to our DACA students, they're scared. Some of whom will be graduating very soon, take a risk every day to commute to campus or to leave their dorm or apartment and walk in public spaces. They're taking this risk because they're trying to pursue their degree. Their families are terrified. In addition to DACA students, we have students who are citizens but come from mixed status families. Some of my students' parents have been detained this semester. This means that not only are they experiencing mental health issues, they also have to provide for their families, taking care of siblings or other elders in the home, which means that a lot of our students are taking on additional jobs along with a lot of the credit hours that they're trying to pursue. What can we do about this? I just want to encourage you to think about changing some of the requirements for the Student Emergency Fund. When speaking to students, they are afraid to use this resource because they do not want to have any
30
document
seconds.
about their status or their family status being recorded. We suggest moving to an oral application in order to actually have the emergency fund be used for what it is meant to be there for, to help students in dire times. We also ask that you protect undocumented members to access and loans, as well as healthcare, should those be removed. Lastly, we want to ensure that anybody who violates FERPA have consequences, and for students not bound to FERPA, that there be consequences if they disclose somebody's legal status. Thank you.
Next up is Kat Hayes, another faculty senator.
Thank you, President Cunningham and administration representatives. I'm happy to have that you've made this time available for us to speak. I'm a director of graduate studies for 2 different grad programs currently. And the anthropology program, where we have a PhD program, has a high number of international students. International grad students are terrified by the situation that they find themselves in. And I really appreciate Summer speaking up earlier on the desire to find more coherent information on their resources and actions that they can take. The detainment of the student last week was so difficult for everybody, but I think that everybody was on edge before that, and now they also are finding evidence that there are many other ways that they're at risk of having their visa revoked that are out of their control because they're not entirely sure how it's happening, how that is happening within the system. I don't want to get into the weeds of all of that right now, but suffice it to say that virtually every part of their experience here is now impacted by this level of fear. And I've spent literally the better portion of this whole last week meeting with DGSs, my colleague DGSs in the College of Liberal Arts.
30 seconds.
Meeting with GPCs about what we can do about this. And there are things that we can do in terms of contingency planning to help protect them and make them more secure so that they can think in very concrete terms about, do they stay, do they go, are they even going to be able to pursue their research? But we are going to need resources and support, additional resources and support from the university to be able to support them in the way that they deserve and they need. So
Time is up.
Thank you.
I want to just personally thank you, Kat, as well as I know so many of our faculty and advisors and community have personally reached out and listened to our international students with kind, open hearts and many hours of time to help them. And I appreciate your suggestions. We all want to help our international community right now.
Next up, I'm going to go with Deirdre Opp, who is a PNA senator.
Thank you, President Cunningham. I'm a PNA senator from the Carlson School, and I work in the area of study abroad. And just want to raise that one of the areas that those of us who work in that field are thinking about right now is our students who went abroad for the spring semester before the current presidential administration started, not knowing any of these risks. And amongst those students, there are green card holders and there are international students who left to pursue semester abroad and now we'll be looking to return back to the United States. And we're not sure what we can or can't tell them about how to do that successfully, how to be successful at that, if there is anything they can do to make themselves more able to return and cross the border and return back into the United States. So that's just sharing an area of concern for a number of us, because these are students who were not prepared for this reality when they chose to leave the country. We know that students in future semesters will have more information to make different choices, but these current students did not have that information.
Next is Caitlin Roars, who is a student.
Hi, President Cunningham and administration. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you hearing our concerns. I'm a student from the University of Minnesota Rochester, and while I think some of the topics that our colleagues have brought up today are really important, I wanted to bring up a different student concern that I've been hearing from my peers on campus, and that is in terms of federal funding and how it'll impact student scholarships and opportunities on our campus. I know that a lot of students were really concerned about how their work study would be affected, how their grants would, or how their financial aid would be impacted in the coming years. Additionally, we've learned that some of our scholarships that would allow students to do research on campus and send some of our students to, for example, NCUR, the National Conference of Undergraduate Research, have since been frozen, and that's making a lot of students concerned. I would like to raise this concern to you and the administration, then also maybe recommend that as more information comes out, I think myself and a lot of students would really appreciate having the administration send some more clarifying information for students. Students commonly like to spread rumors or things get blown out of proportion. And so I think having definitive answers when they're known at a time would be really appreciative.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you for this student. I know it's a lot to speak up at these meetings. I really appreciate it. And there are many things we don't know, and we are working to find those out. But thank you for raising your questions. I hope my team who's here is taking good notes on how we can support some of this programming.
Next is Ophelia Ferran, who is a faculty senator.
Thank you very much. Thank you, President Cunningham and the administration. Like many of us, I do recognize the difficult situation you're in. I did want to mention that I feel a lot of discomfort when regarding the unit statement policy. the notion that the university will always support and back our individual right of free speech and academic freedom, and always limiting that to the ability of us as individual researchers to voice our opinions. But one of the issues here is that in the mission of the university, the collective expertise of a unit has to be shared with the community at large, because it's not just the research of one individual person that may lead to an important communication that helps the state and the community, but it's the collective work that that unit does that leads to an expertise that they have something to say that contributes to the benefit of the whole. And I feel that there's something a little disingenuous and very troubling to me personally when the rights of us as individuals, the university keeps saying that they protect that, but keeps
30 seconds.
not mentioning the rights of as a collective, as a unit, the collective experience of that unit and what that has to contribute.
I'm going to comment here. I know the provost will comment more on this, but I want to remind you, Ophelia, that the board passed policy that differentiated between units' collective speech and individual and their support for academic freedom. The board passed that resolution, and that is where we are as a university. They passed that 2.5 weeks ago, and the provost and I will continue to hear this. But I do want to point you back to the board policy that was passed and the implementation of it that we are all working to do as best we can.
Oh, perfect. Next up is Adolfo Carrillo Cabello, who is a PNA senator.
Hello, President Cunningham, and thank you and your administration for making time to hear about our thoughts. I wanted to chime in with perhaps a more humanistic and personal call, just answering your question at the beginning on what we can do collectively. I'm currently a U.S. citizen, and sadly, I don't have that tattooed on my forehead, and I'm one of those who fear all the time that we are in the public. And as an employee at the university, I also want to call attention to not just people who are legal, but also just those who look different and who can be target of certain situations. And just answering the question, and this is not just to you, but to all of us as a community on what can we do, I really want to call your attention to the very powerful thing that it is to connect with someone who is different. I think we keep hearing about we are with you and all of that, but at the personal level, I haven't had many people really connecting. And I think that is something that we can readily do without much policy. It's something that can come from within, just making sure that we
30 seconds.
talk to one another. I think that is something that is within our reach, and that I hope people would consider just reaching out to anyone who might be affected in one way or another. Thank you.
I hope all of us take that point away today and try to think tonight with our families and and with our community of what we can do to better connect with each other during this time. All people as humans. I just want to thank you for that comment. That is what we can do certainly right now.
Next on the list is Jessica Johnson, who is a faculty senator.
Thank you very much. I also want to extend my deep gratitude for this space and the time to have these conversations, knowing that it is very difficult. We all have a lot of feelings and that there is just so much going on. I would like to echo one of the earlier senators who spoke on the need for collaboration and potentially joining consortiums of universities or putting our voices in bigger communities, that we are not standing alone, that we are not the only university going through this, that we are a much bigger part of an academic landscape. And I hope that there are spaces that we as faculty, as students, as civil service, as P&As, as we can all join in that, as well as the administration. I think that that would be, for one, a way for us to all feel more empowered to stand up for that. My other remark is that I thank you, President Cunningham, for your earlier comments on our continued commitment to belonging, to inclusion, to all of those things. And I want to request that as a university, we do not back down from supporting justice, equity, diversity, inclusion in our curricula, in research, and in our community engagement. I am part of a program that has specific curricular requirements for our accreditation around belonging, around justice, studying health inequities. And it is a fundamental part of our mission, as I know it's a part of the university's mission.
30 seconds.
Thank you. I hope that we can continue to be a force of good in those continued conversations, and that again we can join together with other universities that are also doing this work, that feel a call, that feel a place to be leaders in this conversation. So thank you for the time, thank you for the conversation, and thank you for listening.
Next is Terry Caraway, who's a faculty senator, and Alex, I apologize, I don't recognize your name, so can you please chat me so I can put you in line? Thank you.
Thanks, Amber. You know, I just want to weigh in because there seems to be a real bit of gaslighting going on about what's happening with institutional speech. The board resolution is not a policy. I wish people would stop calling it a policy. We have a process for policymaking at this university. The University Senate is constitutionally empowered with legislative authority over administrative matters. We legislated a policy in December. Right now, the administration has not gone through the process of overturning that legislative policy and has now set up a censorship apparatus that arbitrarily takes down statements without transparency, without accountability, and has not gone through the process to put in a new policy. So the only policy that we have right now on institutional speech is the one that the Senate passed in December and that this administration is disregarding.
My colleague notified me Alex Campbell is a student senator. So Alex, if you'd like to speak, please go ahead. I didn't mean for you to get out of line, just that I didn't know where to put you.
Are there any other questions or any other comments?
Okay, then we will go to VV Ganeshanathan.
Thank you so much, Amber. I just want to really strongly echo what Terry said and share my appreciation for everything that all of my colleagues and the students have said. I want to just express my intense concern about the manner in which the administration took down the unit statements, which happened on a Saturday night, Saturday at 5 p.m., very short notice. And when asked for a justification of how that was done, Provost Croson said, "I don't have one." So at this moment in which the federal government is operating in what seems to be a chaotic mode that is not offering a lot of transparency, people are experiencing massive changes to their lives that are very, very sudden and traumatic. I would love for the administration here to operate with transparency and care. And I feel that the process and procedure is important and is a long part of our tradition, is one of the reasons we have such robust conversations on this campus. And it's really disturbing to me that the way that was done.
Okay, next we have Alex Campbell. Thank you, Alex.
Sorry about that. I was having some microphone issues. I'm Alex Campbell, an undergraduate student senator from the Twin Cities campus. President Cunningham, we appreciate the efforts you have put forth to protect immigrant students, first generation immigrant students, et cetera. However, there are many other staff members who also fall under this category of immigrants, second generation immigrants, et cetera, such as janitors. I personally know many of them. Another student senator has already suggested sending an email to all students and faculty detailing how to protect themselves from situations similar to that which befell the graduate student last week. I am requesting that such information be extended to staff who are not specifically part of the faculty in order to protect the entire university community as a whole. Thank you.
Alex, again, as a student, I just want to thank you so much for your voice today and for speaking out. I do want to offer we have international services and guidance available that is available for staff, students, and faculty. So that it is not just limited, and we have extended that to across all of our campuses. So we are diligently trying to do that. And again, I would go to the immigration pages, and they can also ask for one-on-one information as well. But I hear you. Thank you very much for being willing to speak out.
Thank you.
Don't see any other hands, but we do have 3 or 4 minutes left of the listening session.
Michael Galopi.
Hi, Michael Galope. Sorry, they pay me to talk at the university, so I'm happy to come back for another one. I just want to return to this question. I think there's a lot of unclarity about what these bans really entail. So the first email you sent, President Cunningham, said global issues, the vast majority of global issues. Now I'm hearing global conflicts from the provost. I've also heard Israel-Gaza, which would seem to exclude the West Bank. I've seen an email that says the Middle East as an entire region that has multitudes of conflicts. And I've heard Ukraine, right? So we have this kind of overlapping territory of potential things that you don't want to comment on. I've asked a broad question about human rights. I invite you to please clarify exactly what you do not want to comment on, that our scholars are we have expertise in these areas, and we're frustrated, to say the least, that our statements have been taken down. Can you please clarify the scope of this ban?
Michael, I'll remind you that this is a listening session, so I'm sure President is listening, and there will be an opportunity for her to respond to many of the concerns that are coming. For today, let's keep the scope as it was to a listening session. If there are other comments or questions, please step in. Remember, there is also a Google form in the chat where people can opt to add their questions. Eric?
Thanks, Rashna. Hi, President Cunningham. I appreciate the time you're doing with this. I think it's really important. So, I'm all on board with everyone working together. I emailed you in January, I think, about assuming best intentions, and that is how I like to work and hope to work. But I'm really still disturbed about this sort of issue in the brief that talks about the board's resolution being based on input from shared governance. To me, this just feels like we're being gaslit, that somehow the board did this because shared governance thought this was a good idea. That's just clearly and factually not what happened. And so it's these sorts of things, a bit like taking down statements on a Saturday night, that I think go against the stated and admirable goals of the administration to pull people together in these challenging times. I feel like these are just little missteps that don't encourage people to come forward and work together in the way that you're hoping, the way that I hope we do. So, nothing has changed on the brief. These sort of factually incorrect things that mischaracterize what the shared governance wanted. It'd be great if those things could be adjusted, because then I think people at least believe we're talking it on similar terms and not these sort of things that are just factually false. So thank you.
given the time.
Eric, I will comment. There was no intent in my brief to indicate that the way the board resolution was not incredibly disappointing to faculty, including yourself. The board received input from many different faculty, including this body, and they chose to go a different way. And those words might not have been perfect, and you'll forgive me for my lack of perfection. But that was by no means any intent to gaslight you or the faculty on what I know that this body's intent was. The board went a different way. Thank you.
It'd be great to fix it. That's all. I think it just looks wrong. The Minnesota Daily fixes things when they make little mistakes. It's not a huge thing. It's just problematic. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric. One last question, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie Terrell from the Medical School University Senator. I have two things. So one about the statements that were taken down. So it seems to me if it's not a policy, it was just a board resolution, they can go back up because the administration is saying they're not necessarily supporting or enforcing that resolution. I'm confused about that. I guess it's three things. Secondly, I feel no protection from you, President Cunningham, about this issue. And I feel like if my division had a statement up about reproductive rights and access, it might just be taken down Saturday at 5 p.m. And then the other topic about the international students and faculty, and in my case, residents and fellows and other learners, I keep hearing you say you want to support them. We have all of these support mechanisms. I hear you say you have heartfelt empathy and you want to listen to them. I don't hear you saying or doing anything that says I want to actively protect them. And what can I do? And what can I sign? And what can I say? And how can I stand up? This is the time we have to stand up. We can't comply presumptively to this administration. Thank you.
Well, there's 30 seconds. So Angelique.
Thank you. I had dental work. I will spare you the face today, but I'm over in OIT on the Twin Cities campus in the P&A Senate, and I am exceedingly worried for many of my coworkers that are not U.S. citizens that are here on H-1B1 visas and have to go back for a certain amount of time to their home country to get it renewed. 3 of them are going to be going in the next 2 months and will be gone for a month and a half. And I'm absolutely petrified they will not be allowed to come back in. And I'm wondering also, how are we going to protect those faculty and staff and students that are on campus? Are university police going to stop these people from picking them up? Are there going to be questions? I come from 20 years of law enforcement before I came to the university, and I am appalled at the actions that have been taken and that these students are not being protected. And we don't know where they're going, and we don't know what's happening to them. We've already heard they've lost people and they're not going to bring them back. Someone somewhere needs to take a stand and not let them on our campus, to take people who are contributing to everything that is the mission of the University of Minnesota. And if anybody would like the rest of my time,
30
they most certainly can.
Thank you, everyone. The time for this item is done at this point. And as Amber put in the chat, there is a Google form for anyone who wants to share other ideas, comments, questions. They're welcome to do so. I'll move on with the agenda. Item 7 concerns a resolution from the Student Senate Consultative Committee. Taiwo Aremu, Chair of the SSCC, will introduce the item. Taiwo?
Yes, thank you very much, colleagues. I am Taiwo Aremu, Chair of the Student Senate and the Student Senate Consultative Committee. Over the past 7 years, I've actively contributed to our university, serving on various system-wide committees, and as a university senator for the last 4 years. Through close communication with my predecessors, I have learned, not just only by that, but also with some of my experience, I've learned that we have worked well in shared governance. 2 years ago, as Vice Chair of the Student Senate and SSCC, I participated in a transition meeting with our then interim president during the summer. Throughout that year, we met with the interim president at least once per semester, ensuring open communication and a proactive approach to student concerns. When students had questions, we had answers, or at least a timeline for when they could expect one. And so with the inauguration of our 18th president, Dr. Cunningham, in September 2024, I expressed strong support for our leadership and urged our over 70,000 students across System Campus to do the same. However, this past year has been challenging. Despite repeated efforts, my colleagues and I have struggled to secure meetings, not for personal matters, but to discuss issues affecting students system-wide. Unlike in previous years, we did not have, or the previous year, we did not have a summer meeting. And in the fall, I had to emphasize the urgency of a meeting when I encountered the president at the Board of Regents session. While various students groups met with administration, I could not do the same on behalf of all students in a timely manner. And so ultimately, our first meeting with the president occurred less than 24 hours before the first Student Senate session in fall, when we're expecting the president to address the Student Senate. This semester followed the same pattern. No scheduled meeting until after we completed and shared our resolution draft. That meeting took place just yesterday. And so the resolution before you seeks to institutionalize, or let's use this word, formalize a regular meeting between the president and the Student Senate leadership at least once per semester, spring, summer, and fall, scheduled in advance to ensure structured, meaningful dialogue. These meetings will enhance transparency, strengthen shared governance, and reinforce our commitment to serving students and the state of Minnesota. A standardized approach will ensure continuity across leadership transitions and allow the Student Senate to present a unified voice on behalf of all students. As I shared with President Cunningham yesterday, this is not about targeting individuals. It's not personal in any way, but about reinforcing the principles of shared governance. I urge you all to vote unanimously in favor of this resolution to uphold the integrity of the Student Senate and protect its role in shaping institutional decision-making. On behalf of myself and my fellow colleagues on the Student Senate, would appreciate you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Taiwo. Is there any discussion? Chase?
Hi, I'm Chase Krug. I'm currently a COGS representative to the SSCC. I'm in favor of the resolution. I would like to add to Taiwo's point that the SSCC has used and exhausted all informal channels to get these meetings on the books. And we've been meeting a wall after a wall. And this is like the last resort. And only when we really put a resolution up do we really get an accurate and timely response. And I just think that's bad, bad governance, that we have to have regular meetings that we can prepare for, and all other Faculty Senate, PNA Senate, Civil Service have these meetings, and Student Senate had them in the past, but they have since been paused, and we just need to have regular meetings so we can express student concerns across all campuses within the university. Thanks.
Thank you. Stacy?
Thank you. I want to thank Taiwo and the Student Senate for being brave to formalize this today. I think this resolution is well considered, well thought out, and fair and simple, in a simple request that is deeply meaningful and important to our student body. And I also want to appreciate President Cunningham's sentiments speaking about this at the very beginning of our meeting today. It's so easy to be defensive today, and the welcoming community approach that Taiwo, this resolution, is making is very inspiring. So thank you for your work and for putting forth this resolution today.
Ethan?
Thank you. Ethan Fiegel, Vice Chair of the Student Senate. I'm also in support of this resolution. And I just want to emphasize a bit to the point of what Stacy already said, the good faith nature of the resolution, understanding President Cunningham's point that she made earlier. I think this resolution is not asking for anything radical. It is simply looking to formalize procedures that have long existed within the Student Senate and provide a valuable channel for students to understand what is going on at the highest level within the university. A big point of this resolution is not to criticize President Cunningham or her administration. We understand that it has been busy in a transitional year, but what we want to make sure is that future Student Senate leadership, because we all serve in these positions for just 1 year, do not have to work quite as hard to access their leadership within the university. Thank you.
Thank you. Cole?
Thank you, and you'll have to excuse me. I'm keeping my camera off because I am ill today, so I'm calling in from home, and I'm a little more nasally than I'd expect. I just want to say I also support this resolution simply because I think a lot of us in civil service and P&A and across the university as you know, professionals take advantage of the fact that we have a lot of structure in our day, in our rhythms of daily life, and that is not necessarily the case for students. And you know, in these certain times, I don't believe it's certain for President Cunningham either. I imagine, you know, President Cunningham, you're drawn into a lot of meetings that were not on your calendar yesterday. And so this resolution seeks to add a little clarity as well as some structure to something that's extremely important, is welcome. And I think that the way the Student Senate has been bringing this forward is extremely reasonable. So I just want to say thank you to President Cunningham for your welcoming introduction to this exact topic, as Stacy mentioned already, and Taiwo and the students for putting together such a thoughtful approach to this reasonably challenging question.
Thank you all for your comments. Any other question before we move on? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. Amber, please initiate the vote.
Ten more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. With 142 ayes and 7 nays, that motion carries.
Thank you, all colleagues. I appreciate it.
Very good, excellent. Item 8 concerns administrative responses to Senate actions and is presented for information. There is none pending, so we will move to item 9. Item 9 is approval of minutes from the University Senate meeting on March 6, 2025. Amber, please initiate the poll.
Ten more seconds. And last call. With 143 ayes and 2 nays, that motion carries.
Thank you, Amber. Item 10 concerns a statement from the SCC in support of funding for the Washington Avenue Bridge and is presented for information only. Item 11 is Provost's report. Provost Croson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Shaw. So I know that people have questions about the departmental statements, and I'm happy to talk about that, but let me start off with some perhaps more regular business. Some of you may have seen on Monday, we announced the new Dean of the College of Pharmacy, Kip Guy. He's joining us from his position as current Dean of the College of Pharmacy at the University of Kentucky. He was, I think, uniformly everybody's first choice, and we're delighted that we managed to hire him. So he'll be starting July 31st. We continue to proceed on our HLC accreditation. This is, as a reminder, accreditation we have once every 10 years. Our materials are due September 1st, and we have a set of working groups to help us give us guidance on those materials. And we have a site visit at the end of September, September 29, 30, I think. So keep an eye peeled for that. On the student side, part of that accreditation visit involves a student survey. That survey has been launched for students in the Twin Cities and Rochester campuses, which is the unit being reaccredited. And so, please fill those out. Encourage your colleagues to fill that out. Earlier this week, we held our campus leadership forum. We had about 250 attendees. This is a tradition we started after COVID to bring together academic leaders, deans, associate deans, department chairs, and operational leaders, vice presidents, assistant vice presidents, so that we can discuss issues of relevance to the university as a whole. The first part of that meeting was our strategic planning exercise. And then the second part was tables that are crowdsourced from the attendees' nominations. So that was it was a wonderful event, as it always is, and I am especially grateful to all of the faculty and staff who participated. And then budget season is starting. So we have started our budget hearings for academic units. As you may have heard, we are not expecting any increase from the state, and we are still hoping for a healthy merit or market pool for compensation, which means that we are asking units to do some scenario planning for how that money might be generated through reallocations. So units are doing that. We are also continuing to navigate the financial uncertainty with the federal landscape, as the president mentioned, and as some people mentioned in the panel. So we've asked units to report out on what federal grants they're expecting in FY26, how many people are employed on those grants, and kind of what might happen were that grant to be discontinued. As you heard, or maybe we talked about this in a different meeting, we've had some stop work orders on grants. So again, each campus and college is trying to plan for what we know is a volatile and uncertain financial future over the next year for sure, and possibly longer. And then finally, as you heard and saw in the brief, the president asked me to implement the Board of Regents resolution around institutional speech. The email I sent out to deans, department chairs, and center directors described the process that we're using, and I'm happy to go through that again if people want. And we are continuing to review institutional speech on topics that the president has decided that the institution is not speaking, and deciding how those are going to move forward. So with that, I'll stop. I'm sure there'll be questions. I have 3 questions submitted in advance, and because I'm giving those priority, I'll start with those. The first came from Sam Schmal, a student senator. There was some background to the question that I'm not going to read, but the question was, has there in the past been more structure in undergraduate major programs? And if so, why was that removed? Are there positives to removing that structure? Is there any plan to provide more course structure or to survey faculty and students to see what they prefer? So we don't have a prescribed structure for majors, and there haven't been any changes in the recent past. Faculty in the department propose the structure that works best for their discipline. For some majors, there are elective courses that don't require prerequisites. For others, there aren't. I fully agree with the premise of your question that academic advising is especially important so the students can make an appropriate choice of electives. We've made considerable investments in advising for all 5 of our campuses to make sure that all of our students have access to advisors, but of course the structure of advising, who they report to, how they're assigned to different majors, differs based on the campus or the college or the department. So the second question came from Emily Beck, who's a faculty senator. She writes that last semester, 2,220 first-year writing students learned literature research skills in sessions with a librarian, and instructors and faculty across campus work with librarians regularly, over 1,500 sessions per year. I'm curious whether the one-time funds you've allocated to support the core curriculum, should it be approved, would be available to non-faculty and non-departmental applicants, so that we can ensure that our equipment, software, and personnel capacity is adequate. So I am grateful for the efforts of our librarians in advancing our research and teaching and outreach missions. On a personal note, as I've said many times publicly, when I make my charitable gifts to the university each year, my money goes to the libraries because they support everybody. On the specifics of how the core curriculum is going to be implemented, I welcome input on how the recurring and non-recurring funds that we've set aside can be best deployed to be most effective. I'm anticipating that there will be an implementation group, and I look forward to their recommendations and your input to those recommendations. So the second question is about statements, so it might be a segue to the other comments. Also came from Emily Beck, faculty senator. Why were unit statements related to the war in Gaza removed from departmental websites without any broader communication about the implementation details? So the communications, including an FAQ, was sent to deans and other academic leaders on April 1, and the provost website was similarly updated. As described in that communication, 7 statements on Israel-Gaza were removed on March 30th. 4 statements on Ukraine were removed on April 1st. I've received a few inquiries about whether particular activities that individuals are engaging in or planning to engage in fall under the category of dissemination of research or of institutional statements. So far, those have all been dissemination of research. I do feel like I want to reply to Professor Caraway's comment about policy adoption and development. So for those of you who aren't familiar, we have a policy on how to create policies, and Senate voting does not create a policy. There is a separate, that is a part of that process, but it is not the end point of that process. And I'm happy to point people to the website of how policies are created if they're interested. So with that, I'll stop and I'm happy to take questions.
Nate Mills.
Yeah, thank you, Provost Carson. In your email that you sent to CLA deans, you suggested that the statements on Ukraine and Gaza were being taken down because the guidelines from the Board of Regents, as the president has interpreted them, say that statements that either contradict the official stance of the university or that statements on which the topics on which the university does not have an official stance would then be removed or at least somehow in violation of those guidelines. So I wanted to ask, first, does this mean that you are walking back the 2022 official stance on the invasion of Ukraine, in which President Gabel initiated divestment from Russia and referred to it quite clearly and objectively and officially as an atrocity? And then 2, what is the institutional stance currently on the murder of George Floyd? Because those statements are all still up on websites. So logically, my assumption is that they conform with the institution's stance on the murder of George Floyd. And I just like to hear that kind of stated explicitly.
Sure. Thank you, Nate. So the Board of Regents resolution delegated to the president the authority to decide what topics the institution will and won't speak on. As President Cunningham mentioned in her September email, she indicated that she and now the university will not be speaking on matters of global issues, I think is what she said. But as she and I talked about it, she was really focusing on active global disputes. And so those were, and again, I want to highlight that these are institutional statements that are, being discussed. And so that was the basis on which we looked at the statements on the 2 sets of statements that we investigated.
So has the university then revoked President Gabel's position from 2022?
I don't know how to answer that question. The president has decided we're not speaking on global issues.
Next, Carrie Terrell.
Thank you. So I'm just going to reiterate what I've heard so far today because I'm really confused on these statements now. So the president said, hey, not me, the Board of Regents passed this policy. And then we learned it's not a policy, it's a resolution. It's basically a ban on any scholarly statements that a group writes together. So an individual can write a scholarly statement, but not a group. And then Provost Crossan, what I heard you say is the president then decides what topics are allowed to be banned under this resolution. So who is in charge? Who's deciding? And what is our how can we start to move forward and or develop a policy? So we already voted one in December that you say is half the work. What's the rest of that work so that we're protecting ourselves and being able to offer insightful and scholarly comment on global, local, national issues?
Yeah, so the Regents resolution explicitly talked about protecting the faculty's right and the right of anyone engaged in scholarly work to do research, to teach, and to disseminate their scholarly work. So this is not a ban on statements disseminating research or scholarly work. This is a recognition that the Board of Regents delegated to the president the authority to decide what topics the institution will speak on as an institution, and it's these institutional statements that are being considered.
And I would argue that our scholarly work includes assimilation, integration, digestion of other scholarly works into a comprehensive statement that the community, a layperson, can read and understand. So I don't understand how that would be excluded under what you just said.
I understand.
I'm so sorry to interrupt in this debate. We are already at time. I'm also sorry to people who have their hands up. We are at 4. Unfortunately, our time is over and we need to move to the Faculty Senate. There are 2 remaining items. I'll quickly read them out. Item 13 concerns old business. At this point, there is no old business for the University Senate. Item 14 concerns new business for the University Senate. Again, in the interest of time, please note that any new business will be referred to committee unless special permission is granted by 2/3 of those voting and present. And since we are out of time, I would move to adjourn the meeting at this point. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Could I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Please note that the Faculty Senate will convene right after this. So if you would like to stay for the Faculty Senate, that would be great. Thank you very much for everyone attending and for a robust discussion. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Professor Rachna Shah. I'm the Vice Chair for the Faculty Senate. I now call the Faculty Senate to order. Item 2 concerns administrative responses to Faculty Senate actions and is presented for information. There is none pending. Item 3 is approval of minutes from the Faculty Senate meeting on March 6, 2025. Amber, please initiate the poll.
Ten more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. With 102 ayes and 2 nays, that motion carries.
Thank you, Amber. Item 4 is the FCC report. Professor Goodenough, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vice Chair Shah, or I guess Chair Shah. Thank you for stepping in to chair the remainder of the meeting today. I apologize for a Senate docket that's been a bit chaotic and multiple emails, maybe as chaotic as our weather has been. And I do want to take a moment to express appreciation to Amber Bathke and the Senate office for wrangling all that entropy as we put this together. I'd also like to thank the SCC and FCC members who were able to come to the special meeting I called on Monday to talk through the idea of adding the listening session that we had earlier. I didn't want to take any of that time earlier since I do get my own time. And so I want to start with what I would have said at that time, which is I want to say to our international students, staff, and faculty around the state, from Morris to Duluth, Rochester, Crookston, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Extension, Outreach, everywhere. I don't, like others, I don't have any special words to make you feel safe or take away your uncertainty. But I do want to take this opportunity to use my words to echo others in affirming you that you are valued here and that you make the University of Minnesota a better place by being here. And I want to thank you for your courage to be here and remain here right now. And I hope that you stay here. I also want to thank our administrators who on short notice were able to be here to listen to the senator's thoughts and concerns that you brought up earlier. One thing that was cut was the FLL, Faculty Legislative Liaison Report, to make time. And so I asked Mark B. and Rob Blair, the FLLs, for a couple top things that I could mention in my report. They both immediately and independently replied, join advocates at advocate.umn.edu. We especially need advocates from the system campuses and university-based facilities from all over the state. Now imagine that in all caps with a lot of exclamation points. They also said that visiting a legislator is even better. They have heard directly from at least one legislator with a campus in their district that faculty and staff do not do enough, nor do we do as much as our colleagues at Minnesota State when it comes to contacting legislators and asking them to support the university. I've met a lot of faculty and we talk a lot, so maybe we should really, turn that into, to use that power for good. They also have the sense that it is unlikely that we'll be getting an increase in money anytime soon. And as others have mentioned, we're hoping that we just don't get cut. Right now, the Senate Higher Education Committee is working with a target budget of $100 million, most of which is likely to go to the state grants program. The House Higher Ed Committee has a target budget of 0 increase. The FLLs also report that they're hearing that President Cunningham is doing a great job of engaging with the legislature, as we know she's about to do right now. So hopefully that continues to go well. Turning now to what the FCC has been doing since we last met. We met on March 20th, where we heard an update from TFAPS and discussed their reports, which you're going to hear all about in just a few minutes. We have had additional engagement on the phased retirement policy and several other policies. In our meeting today earlier, not surprising perhaps, we talked extensively about institutional statements during our time with Provost Croson. We also today reviewed ongoing efforts in shared governance across the Big Ten, including a collective statement in development by Senate leaders across the Big Ten. Perry Leo, who's here, was officially elected as chair of the FCC-SCC for next year, so he will assume this mantle mid-summer. Our vice chair elections will be in the next few days, we having heard from our 2 candidates today. And I'm told the FCC nominating subcommittee is making progress on developing the FCC slate for later this semester. We also talked about the next steps for the AF&T Task Force report on academic freedom protections for non-tenure track faculty. We heard about that first here in February 6th at our earlier Senate meeting. AF&T has asked FCC to add a vote of the recommendations to the April 24th Senate meeting. We had some robust discussion about that, and FCC is committed to having those recommendations on the docket for discussion, but has not yet decided if they support a vote at that same time. They feel it is very important that senators know and consider the implications of voting on recommendations creating tenure positions for our current term faculty and instructional P&A. And the FCC is not yet convinced that the recommendations have made that intention clear enough to all senators, which is a timely reminder of tomorrow's deadline to fill out the Google form that Amber had sent out earlier with an opportunity to ask further questions about the report and recommendations. So please be sure to review the report carefully, the recommendations, and share any questions you have. I want to conclude by once again acknowledging the work of the Core Curriculum 2025 Committee, its co-chairs, Will Durfee and Catherine Pearson, as well as the support they received from Katie Russell. I want to recognize the broad engagement by our university stakeholders in this process, who helped sift and winnow to the motion that is before you today. Those who were on Senate last year may remember it seemed like we were heading towards a vote at the end of spring 2024 semester, but I think our patience has paid off with an updated and further consulted framework, which has incorporated many of the good suggestions from you. This is and was a collaborative effort worthy of praise, independent of the outcome of today's vote. This concludes my FCC report. Thank you. I did not receive any questions in advance, but do I call on folks or does Rachna do you? I don't know how this works.
I can call on folks, Terry.
Thanks, Rachna.
Can I just remind people to recognize they're from the affiliation? We've sort of gotten out of the habit of doing that, so it would be very useful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Rachna. I'm Terry Caraway. I'm a faculty senator from the College of Liberal Arts. Jen, I just want to ask a quick clarification to make sure that I heard you correctly. So did you say that you're going to that the AF&T task force on academic freedom protections for non-tenure track faculty, that will be up for discussion at the next faculty senate meeting, but not for a vote?
The FCC today was, I felt the sense of the room was we were willing to commit to having it for discussion, but we were not yet, we didn't rule out that it would be for a vote, but we were not ready to commit to that after today's discussion. So that is where we left it.
So then, so now I have another question or comment. I mean, I'm a member of the Academic Freedom and Tenure Committee. I'm not a member of the task force. And, you know, the Faculty Senate did vote to create the task force. And, you know, we're all adults in the room. And I think that, you know, we have the capacity to read the report and recommendations and make a decision. So I really do hope that when you bring it back, that you bring it back for a vote. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nate Mills.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a follow-up question also about the AF&T task force report. So is the FCC suggesting that the faculty senators currently are unable to determine what the impact of this this move would be by reading the report? Or is there more information that's being gathered? Or what exactly is the lack of awareness that apparently we have?
I think it's an acknowledgement that unfortunately on February 6th, we had to cut discussions short, and we have a form out there. Some of the things I've seen in the form are in fact a request for a vote, and we recognize that. But there is folks who are asking questions basically simply, is this going to mean that we're creating tenure positions for our term and instructional P&A staff? And the answer is yes. And the FCC discussion today indicated that FCC members were not sure that that was clear from the recommendations. And so we want to, something as important as that, we don't want to take the chance that senators don't understand what they're being asked to vote to recommend. Also, part of our discussion today, and this wasn't what you really asked, but voting on a set of recommendations doesn't require anyone to do anything. So.
Any other questions? Terry?
I mean, it's true, it doesn't require anybody to do anything, but it does show that allows the faculty to speak collectively, right? That it's not just the opinion of a committee, right? But it's the voice of the faculty writ large. So I, you know, I'm a little troubled. It seems like there's a bit of a patronizing attitude towards us as senators, and I think you should let us vote on it.
Thank you.
Mark B.
I am Mark B. I'm not a faculty senator. Would someone yield time?
I'll yield time. Alicia Cohen.
Thank you, Alicia. I'm the recent past chair of the FCC. I'm also currently a member of the FCC, and I wanted to clarify that, you know, there was no discussion on the FCC. As it's clearly trying to be painted now that we think faculty senators are too stupid to read the report. Okay, so I resent anyone making that suggestion. What I would suggest is that if AF&T wants something specifically done by the administration, I would encourage AF&T and others to formulate it in the form of a resolution with a specific ask. That is a much better way to actually create a document that the administration has to respond to. That's how this works. There's concern, I think, among some that AF&T is trying to not put this in the form of a resolution for some reason that it is not clear. And so I won't pretend to speak for the mind of AF&T, but I would suggest that if we want the administration to do something, we have a mechanism for that. We put it in a resolution and we ask them to do it. That would be an appropriate way for AF&T to handle its concerns, I think. Thank you.
Didn't hear a question, so I will say thank you.
Nate, back to you. Last question. Do we have time?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you clarifying that the FCC doesn't think the faculty is too stupid to read the report, but I'm not sure otherwise what the problem is. Like I've read the report. It's quite clear about what it entails, and we can clarify that in a kind of debate. So I still would like to know what exactly it is that is confusing about the tenure or protection elements of it that is keeping the FCC from bringing it to a vote.
I'm sorry, that was the last question. We have to move on to the next item on the agenda. Item 7 is action on the recommendations from the Core Curriculum 2025 Committee. First, I invite Professor J.B. Schenk, Chair of the CLA Assembly, to speak to the memo from CLA that was added to the docket on March 31. Professor Schenk.
Okay, yes. Let me share a PowerPoint here. Let me go back to my. Okay. So yes, I've been asked to, you see there who I am, and I've been asked to give a 5-minute at most just overview of the opinion of the constituents of the College of Liberal Arts regarding this proposed curriculum change, the version 3 core curriculum. I keep toggling back between all right, I'm just going to speak and hope that this is coming through. So basically, this is the overview of what I want to try to encapsulate in 5 minutes. Our process of deliberation and the documents we have provided to voting senators on behalf of the College of Liberal Arts via the College of Liberal Arts Assembly. The key theme throughout is the report that the College of Liberal Arts is deeply divided. And I want to separate 2 different aspects of what we're voting on. The proposed change now and the proposed version 3 core curriculum, which will become the new core curriculum if the passage of it occurs. I will then summarize some of the voices in favor of the change now position and the people supportive of the new version 3 core curriculum and the voices opposed to that. Let me just start. I want to make sure we've said this over and over again, but just to make sure that everyone hears it, we are absolutely we have no complaints whatsoever about the work done by the Core Curriculum Reform Committee and particularly Chairpersons Durfee and Pearson. And we also have gratitude for the Faculty Consultative Committee Chair Jennifer Goodnow and her committee that allowed us to create a 6-week pause between the acceptance of the new proposed curriculum on February 20th and the holding of this vote today. I was part of the previous reform curriculum committee and experienced the train wreck that occurred when that committee came to the Faculty Senate. So we were very glad to be able to take this pause and have some time to reflect on the vote before we take it. We've also, as been going on through a process of deliberation about this issue for over 2 years now. We've had at least 3 in-person discussions via the College of Liberal Arts Assembly with Chairpersons Durfee and Pearson. The last one very recently on February 25th. There have also been numerous private meetings and discussion with CLA faculty, students and staff, and that is meetings with the persons of the committee or members of the committee. And many changes, we're up to version 3 of this. Many changes that have led to version 3 are the result of consultation and feedback. And again, we're grateful and have no complaints with the process of the reform committee. What this led to in this 6-week pause between February 25th and April 3 is the following. Again, through the College of Liberal Arts Assembly, we extended an invitation to all CLA units to engage in their own intra-unit discussion and assessment, which we then asked to have submitted to us for a document. We also made it possible for any constituents in the college to express their views individually to voting senators. Hopefully, some of the voting senators have received those individual assessments. And then on March 25th, we had a focused general discussion of the proposed change right now and the final curriculum proposal, along with the vote on a formal resolution that asks, should the CLA Assembly endorse the proposed core curriculum version 3 as set forth by the Core Curriculum 2025 committee? This led to the documents we've given to voting senators. We received ultimately statements from the CLA Student Board, the CLA Office of Undergraduate Education, a specific statement from 17 non-tenure track lecturers, teaching specialists, and contract faculty in the Department of English. 6 academic departments responded. You see the names there. And we received individual letters from 2 tenured faculty members and one-time deans. Each of these was both a faculty member and a one-time dean, and 2 anonymous statements. On top of that, we put a cover letter summarizing the results of the March 25th CLA Assembly resolution, which you see there. 50% voted yes, meaning to endorse the proposal. 40 voted no, no endorsement, and 10% abstained. There are the exact vote totals there. We also put on top of that a brief inventory of the statements made for and against the proposal at the March 25 Assembly. In terms of the voices in favor of change, and again, I want to keep these separate, in favor of change now and voices in favor of the new version 3 core curriculum, we received strong support. There's been continuous strong support from undergraduate students in the college in favor of this new curricular reform. There's been strong support for those responsible for administering undergraduate curriculum, and the faculty serving on the Core Curriculum Reform Committee in the college have been praiseworthy of the new effort. They praise the innovations of the new curriculum. They're excited about its potential to re-engage with 21st century students. And they, in terms of, so this is their praise for the curricular structure. And then in terms of the decision to vote now or to act now, they're concerned about delaying reform further, worry about losing the momentum of needed reform, and believe it's time to act now, that there's no reason to wait or argument to wait. On the other side, voices opposed to change now and the new version 3 core curriculum. Of the 6 academic units that responded, and 3 of the 4 individual responses, they were generally negative and expressing criticisms and concerns about the proposal. The opposition from the 17 non-tenure track lecturers, teaching specialists, and contract faculty in the Department of English references of, we think, or it's hard to get a sense, but a general, if loosened and co-ed, imprecise to measure, may not be there, but the sense is that it's there. Opposition among those who are non-tenure track lecturers, teaching, and specialists, and contract faculty across the college to this change. And there's a widespread, if not universal, opposition among tenure line faculty, at least those who choose to air their views publicly. And what I mean by this is that generally, when I talk to tenure line faculty across the college, I get nothing but negative responses to this on both the change now question and the new curriculum. There might be, though, I don't talk to everybody, and there might be a silent majority out there that's in favor of the new curriculum that's just not speaking to us. So that's where that is. Moving now to the sort of questions of the core curriculum itself, the concerns that are expressed most commonly are the concern about a shift from traditional disciplinary foci for general education to, and here these are their words, vague, imprecise, vacuous designations. In short, a worry that we're letting go of our commitment to traditional disciplinary curricula and teaching, and that's who we are as faculty. We teach literature, we teach history, we teach social science, we don't teach making meaning and these new things. Many worry and express that they a disbelief or a criticism that the box checking complaint, which has always been made against any core curriculum that we've ever had, has not really been fixed. It's just a new set of boxes to check. And this despite the claim that this has eliminated the box checking or relieved it in some sense. There's specific concern about the new thematic foci and synthesis class. Here I'd say this concern is met by an equal enthusiasm for this among those in favor of it. But the concerns about it are as follows. Do students need a new LE minor? Do we need to create this sort of new burden that they not only do LE, but do a sort of concentrated minor? Will the synthesis class be an extra burden for transfer students? And is it really compatible with the Minnesota transfer curriculum in the sense that, is it true that any Minnesota student can get a transfer of the synthesis course from another college? Or how will this work? And finally, who will control the syllabi for the synthesis course, and will faculty actually teach these courses, these new courses? Finally, the question is often asked, what exactly is the problem with this, our current curriculum? Nobody likes it, but at this point, it's the curriculum we have. And how exactly does this new curriculum fix it? Do we really need this change? Connecting now to the change now question, this is hard to classify in one or the other because there's been lots and lots of concern on the insistence that we try to assess this new curriculum free of any discussion of its implementation. For many of us, it's impossible to know what this curriculum will be because it will only be what it is once it's implemented, yet we're not allowed to talk about or ask about implementation questions. So how can we vote on something so abstract and loose with only a loose roadmap of actual formalization after its implementation?
Professor,
Second,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we are over time.
I've got one more slide.
Quickly.
I've got one more slide if I can just finish here. Is this really the time now? Budget shortfalls, there's not a coincidence between the timetable of this curricular reform, which has moved along as it should, but what's happening now? Is this the right time? And giving all these other appeals afoot is now the time to change. And so this is the final slide in the conclusion. College of Liberal Arts is deeply divided. It's deeply divided over both the idea of changing the core curriculum now, given everything else that's going on. Many think, yes, we got to do it now while we have the chance. Others say, why not wait? And then lots and lots of uncertainty and disagreement about the merits of the version 3 core curriculum. Okay, sorry. Thank you for giving me the time, and apologies for running over.
Thank you, Professor Schenk. We'll first move to Professor Pearson and Durfee, who will now say a few final words before we proceed to vote.
Thank you, Chair Shaw. I'm wondering if the screen could stop being shared.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have.
I got it.
Oh, thank you.
Great. Perfect. And thank you, JB, for that incredibly challenging task of summarizing the opinions of members of the CLA Assembly and CLA, as there's never going to be faculty unanimity on matters of curriculum. Despite that, we were pleased to learn that the CLA Assembly did vote to endorse the core curriculum proposal. So our remarks today are going to be brief because the senators are already well informed on this matter. First and foremost, the reason we're doing this is for University of Minnesota undergraduate students. From the start, the goal has been to respond to the challenge put forth by the Boyer 2030 Commission on Undergraduate Education, which is for research universities to provide undergraduate students with, quote, a transformative education for life, work, and citizenship. And we believe the proposed core curriculum is responsive to that challenge. Students have been part of the process from the start, and student voices shaped significant parts of the proposal because there's no point in creating a curriculum that is universally rejected by students. You have in the docket 2 letters from undergraduate student organizations. One is from the undergraduate student government that represents the 30,000 undergraduate students on the Twin Cities campus. The other from the CLA Student Board that represents undergraduate students in CLA. And I'd like to read a portion from the CLA Student Board letter. Quote, this proposal reflects a meaningful investment in student learning, adaptability, and preparation for future careers in an ever-changing professional environment. We particularly appreciate the addition of the multidisciplinary synthesis course, which provides students with a tangible product to showcase as they prepare to enter the workforce. Rather than a checklist model of requirements, students can shape their general education experience in ways that align with their interests and career aspirations, making their learning more meaningful and impactful." End quote. An exciting component of the synthesis course that's mentioned is the group project. That's an opportunity for students collaborating with students from other majors and other colleges to show what they know. Having a culminating experience where students must leverage the knowledge of those who may think differently to harness the power of a group is a competency all students should have when they graduate. Many faculty from across our university use group projects in their courses, and our students are used to working in groups. It's impossible to predict exactly what those projects will look like, but in my 30 years of teaching here, University of Minnesota students have never failed to impress me with their knowledge, dedication, and creativity, and I, for one, am eager to see the outputs from the synthesis course. Does the core curriculum eliminate box checking? Of course not. All major and general ed requirements involve some component of box checking. But we believe, and students believe, that the core curriculum has the potential to rise above mere box checking because it gives agency to students to choose a focus area that's meaningful to them, and then to deeply engage with that focus area, including the synthesis course reflective component. In conversation with students, they've not only talked about how the core curriculum be more meaningful than the current model, but also how it can be used to recruit prospective students. As Columbia points to its core curriculum, yes, it's got the same name, as the defining element of a Columbia college education, and Purdue uses its cornerstone integrated liberal arts as a signature experience for students to broaden their understanding of the world, so too can the University of Minnesota point to a singular experience for all of its undergraduate students to engage and participate in scholarly discussion of pressing societal issues. I'd like to briefly turn to evaluation because it's impossible to predict the future with certainty, which is why evaluation will be essential. The proposal calls for a formal evaluation at year 5 to determine if the core curriculum is meeting its objectives. At that time, and with the support of data collection, analysis, and consultation, a determination can be made about what, if any, adjustments to the core curriculum might be needed, which will include an evaluation of budget impacts. Explained by Corin Zuer's University Budget Office at the March Senate meeting, budget changes to units that are continually monitored, including for enrollment shifts, and any potential permanent changes to college budgets will be discussed and addressed through the annual university budget process. So I'll now turn the floor over to committee co-chair Catherine Pearson.
Thank you, Will. I'd now like to turn to implementation. We recognize that this report is a framework, and while many details about the rationale and components are in the report that you've all read, the specific implementation details are not. If the core curriculum passes, we will all be in this together, whether you and your departmental colleagues support or oppose the proposal today. We share a collective goal, which is to provide our undergraduates with the best education possible, and we have to get this right. If it passes, those involved with the implementation task forces, which we hope will be many of you, will continue to collect ideas from the university community, including the suggestion about libraries earlier today, and work out the logistics so that the realization of the core curriculum will serve students, faculty, and advisors. The many excellent suggestions and feedback we've received have been recorded, and those working on implementation will also return to your ideas and concerns. Implementation will also include many faculty from across the university to help with course certification to expedite the process of approving courses. All along, the committee has been committed to making this work for our transfer students. Conversations have already happened, and implementation will ensure that the transfer curriculum is approved as well, and transfer students will start 2 years after entering undergraduates. When it comes to teaching the multidisciplinary courses, no adjunct faculty and no graduate students will teach sections of the course. As explained on page 20 of the proposal, sections will be taught by regular faculty, contract faculty, or academic professional staff who hold primary responsibility for teaching. These categories are the same categories for those eligible to receive the Morse Alumni Award for Outstanding Contributions to Undergraduate Education. adjunct faculty do not fall under these categories. In closing, we are excited about the core curriculum. Students are excited about the core curriculum, and we hope that you are as well. This is a change that faculty control. The faculty own the curriculum, and this change would make a positive impact on the University of Minnesota in this time of uncertainty for universities across the country. Will and I would like to thank the faculty, academic advisors, and student members of the Core Curriculum Committee. The committee's passion for undergraduate education, hard work, and its willingness to debate a range of ideas has been inspiring. We would also like to thank the many faculty, staff, and students from across the university, including so many of you in the Faculty Senate, for their unceasing engagement throughout the process of developing the core curriculum over the past 3 years. The proposal that you have in front of you is much stronger because of the significant input that we have received. Should senators choose not to adopt the core curriculum today, our students will still receive an excellent general education through the current liberal education requirements, strengthened by LE courses certified more than 5 years ago, having to go through recertification. But you now have before you the opportunity to transform the university's general education program to one that truly provides the transformative education for life, work, and citizenship called for by the Boyer 2030 Commission. I will end our remarks with a quote from the support letter by the undergraduate student government. Quote, "Rather than a checklist model of requirements, students can shape their general education experience in ways that align with their interests and career aspirations, making their learning more meaningful and impactful. We believe these changes will enhance the undergraduate experience and better equip students for success beyond their time at the University of Minnesota." End quote. Thank you. This concludes our remarks.
Thank you, Professors Pearson and Durfee. Please note that there is no discussion for this item because we've had significant amount of discussion before. We will, and also another note that only University of Minnesota Twin City campus faculty can vote for this item. We will now proceed to vote. Amber, please initiate the vote. My apologies to people who have their hands up. There is no time allocated for discussion on this item.
I know this is out of protocol, but I'm very upset that there is no time for comments. I know we discussed this many times, but I've always been cut short. And I have not had a chance to mention my comments, and I know today is not the place, but I'm also upset and disappointed that at least we're not, if not discussion, we're not able to share our comments because these conversations have been cut short, sorry, many times. Thank you.
Wish to vote? And last call. With 46 ayes and 64 nays, that motion does not carry. We will verify the vote afterwards in terms of checking to make sure that eligible people were voting, and we'll send the final results afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. And sorry, Julia, we have time allocated 30 minutes for the next item. Otherwise, that would have to be cut short. So I understand your frustration, but we have to move on. Item 8 is a presentation on and discussion of recommendations from the Term Faculty and Academic Professionals Subcommittee. Catherine Dowd, Chair of that committee, is here to provide the presentation. Chair Dowd, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair Shah, and let me share a presentation with you all. I know you have copies of this presentation, so in the interest of time, I'll just highlight what I think are the most important slides. Can you see my presentation all right?
Yes.
Okay,
That
thank
would be
you.
appreciated because we are already 10 minutes behind and we
Yes.
want to hear everything you have to say. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you all have copies of this, so I'm happy to have you just take questions from you all. I'll just highlight the things that I think are most relevant. So the Term Faculty Academic Professionals Subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of SCAFA, the Senate Committee on Faculty Affairs. Just to be sure that we're all on the same page, I always like to talk about the two categories that we're talking about here, which are term limited academic faculty and faculty-like staff. So what we refer to as term or contract faculty that use the same job codes and same titles as regular or tenure track faculty, and academic professionals or PNA employees who have the titles teaching specialist and lecturer. So these are two separate employee groups. The TFAPS committee dealt with this by setting up two working groups, each to review the terms and conditions of employment of these two groups. Just noting, as you already know from the task force report from AF&T, the governing document for term or contract faculty is the Board of Regents policy on faculty tenure. The governing documents for PNA are the academic policies applicable to those employee groups. Those are held by the Office of Human Resources. The contract details are very similar, limited term, multi-year possible, promotion paths. We'll get into that a bit more. Just to give a little bit of background, especially for faculty who have been with the university across a number of decades, what's happened is that as employment has changed, in, let's say, 2 decades ago and before, it was common for departments to hire temporary instructors to fill in for faculty on sabbatical or faculty on other types of leaves. Over time, what's happened is, and you have the data that shows you that there's been an increase in the number of term faculty and the number of PNA staff. So this is due to changes in enrollment, changes in curricular offerings from, for example, the use of a professional master's program often involves having instructors in the classroom with specialized skills. So over time, because of those changes, and the need for more fixed-term faculty and PNA instructors, there's been a mismatch in expectations. And what I mean by that is that students in the classroom look to the instructor, no matter their title, no matter their employee group, and use the honorific professor when they're speaking with them. Nonetheless, these fixed-term faculty and PNA instructors do not have the same support or clear career paths, or even in some cases participation in governance that regular or tenure track faculty have. So the need for the subcommittee came about following unionization efforts in 2018 to 2019, task force exploring the possibility of how to fix this, came up with a plan to charge a subcommittee to SCAFA, and the committee's work began in November 2022. I've been chair of the committee since then. So these are the graphs that we were looking at previously, showing decrease in the number of tenure track faculty, a dramatic increase in the number of contract faculty, noting here that the vast majority of contract faculty are employed in the academic health sciences. It is possible to designate the type of contract faculty by using a terminal letter after the job code to designate that contract or term faculty as teaching, research, or service, or clinical, most importantly, but it's not required that that final letter be used. Notably, the number of PNA instructors has also increased. Of the approximately 1,200 employees in this category, 39% are full-time employees. And just to give you an example, that 82% of that 39% are in the Twin Cities campus, with the majorities being in CLA and smaller percentage in CHD, CSE, and Carlson School. Again, these PNA instructors are often charged with leading large lower division courses. That's the most common use. So we're aware of that for the full-time employees. The committee charge, I think, speaks for itself, so I'll keep moving. As we started to explore the issues that needed resolution, we realized that due to the sort of parallel but separate growth of these two employee groups, there were quite a varied use of appointment types, depending on the college, depending on the department, including variation in length of the appointment and the job code that was used. Most definitely unclear career paths for these professional employees, meaning employees that have chosen a career at the university. There's been a lack of benchmarking as a result. The pay structure has resulted in some employees being ineligible for merit increases. There is a lack of professional development support, often limited participation in departmental decision-making, for example, in choice of a course textbook, and ineligibility for emeritus status. So those were the key issues. The two working groups prepared statements with their recommendations. So for the contract or term faculties, these are the limited term faculty using faculty job codes, we resolved to establish clear promotion pathways, adopt standard justifications for retaining contract faculty. That's related again to the task force report. And as you know, the portions of the region's tenure code, identify clear pathways for multi-year contracts, allow contract faculty to receive emeritus status to recognize their contributions, and also adopt a uniform policy for a non-renewal, similar to that which is provided for PNA instructional staff. For PNA instructors, the path to change is slightly different based on the policy. In this case, the recommendation is for a comprehensive job family study to be conducted by the Office of Human Resources, Compensation, and Classification team. That is to understand the roles that these instructors often have, which are sometimes 100% instruction and sometimes 50% instruction and 50% other duties related to their roles. For example, acting as an academic advisor, working on curricular changes and updates. The result of a job family study is the possibility of establishing market data and using benchmarking to clarify the pay structure. In addition, we encourage the development of professional development and leave policies to ensure that instructors can continue to grow in their professional careers. And we also suggest an eligibility. We recommend an eligibility for phased retirement similar to other faculty and faculty-like job opportunities. Finally, just want to thank the two working groups for their questions, their hard work over these past nearly 3 years. I'm particularly appreciative of the chair of SCAFA, Cliff Steer, who's become quite a good friend and mentor through all of this process. I've really appreciated his time and happy to take your questions.
Rashna, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, I spoke so much. We will now proceed to discussion. Please raise your hand to be recognized to speak. When you're called on, please introduce yourself and indicate which unit you're from. And as a reminder, non-senators must be yielded time by a senator in order to speak. Non-senators wishing to speak may either reach out to a senator in advance or ask to be yielded time, or may get in queue and ask for senator to yield time once recognized. With that, I'll call Alicia Cohen.
Hello, Alicia Cohen, CLA Senator and member of the TFAPS committee, and I'm director of the Journalism School. I just want to let the Senate know just how much time the group has really spent on these issues and consulting with various committees with related mission and purposes. I think it's very important that this work move forward pragmatically. I will say that as a tenured full professor who works with contract and PN instructors, there's a lot of concern over and anxiety over both the budget issues the university is facing, what's come from the AF&T policy committee, which does interpret our policies very fairly, but also leaves these groups of instructional staff and contract faculty in a quandary. And you know, we need to chart a middle ground, I would say, as a Senate, and being open to supporting the workforce that we have, as well as build better policies and interpretation. And so I hope that this body will see that work in that light and will support improving the working conditions for those faculty who are on contracts and PNA instructional staff as we navigate the rest, this long history of ways that the university has done hiring to meet workforce needs.
Thank you, Alicia. Jeremiah.
Yeah, thanks. I'm a faculty senator from CSE. It's a very interesting report, and I think there's a lot of good work going on. It seems like this topic plus the topic on academic freedom for non-tenure track faculty interact in kind of complicated ways. And I'm wondering if there are recommendations about, I think that it's not clear what the path forward for coming to a kind of a coherent next step is, given that there are so many overlapping interests and initiatives, but they're not all kind of consolidated into one topic. So I think that's more of a comment than a question. But anyway, something to be considered.
Thank you very much for that comment, Julia.
Thank you. Faculty senator from CLA, and I'm actually a PNA. And I would like a bit of clarification if it's possible, because on the slides, on the document that was provided, it mentions a promotional pathway for PNAs with a principal as a third category, but that's not mentioned on the slides for the report. So I don't know if that's something that is off the table, or if it's still on the table. I would like a bit more information on what is third category of promotion as a principal PNA or lecturer. What would that entail? And what would be the requirements to be able to get to that third tier? Thank you.
Ashna, would you like me to answer? Would you
Did
like?
you want to respond? Because we will have discussion again next
Okay.
meeting we have. And in the interest of time, I want to give more time to people who have points for you to think about. Michael?
Yeah, I just want to first of all thank the committee. I mean, Alicia and I have worked so hard in CLA to work on non-tenure track faculty professionalization. And this is one place where, you know, when we were doing the CLA Dean search, we really saw that we're behind some of our peer institutions in terms of professionalizing these positions. Over 40% of our instruction is done non-tenure track. So I just want to say thank you to the committee. And I think this is a great step in the right direction. And I also think trying to square this with really strong academic freedom protections alongside the professionalization paths will be essential, because especially in this climate, our non-tenure track instructors are disproportionately exposed to external groups and these kinds of risks. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Well, seeing no other questions, we will move to the next item. Item 9 concerns old business. There is no old business for the Faculty Senate. Item 10 concerns new business for the Faculty Senate. Please note that any new business will be referred to committee unless special permission is granted by 2/3 of those voting and present. Is there any new business? Thank you. If there is no further business, this concludes our meeting. Seeing no further business, we are adjourned. Do we need a second or a motion?
No.
Okay,
No one says anything. You're good.
thank you.
Okay, good.
All right, I think we are done. Thank you very much for your time and for your great conversation and discussion.